town of struggle icon Mama Albertina Sisulu Tsomo in the Chris Hani District in the Eastern Cape. The town is hosting the provincial celebrations for the International Day of Older Persons. The theme for this year's celebration is Older Persons, Human Rights are Not Negotiable. Protect us, respect us. We go now to the Eastern Cape to speak to our reporter Busiswe Jemsana Mantashe. She's with the Premier of the Eastern Cape. Busiswe, what's happening where you are?
Very good morning. We are coming to you live from Tsomo, the birthplace of the struggle icon Mama Albertina Sisulu. This is where she was born, and today the elderly people in and around Tsomo have been called to the town hall to discuss the challenges that face elderly people in rural areas. The Eastern Cape is known. In fact, just a month ago, Safety and Liaison MEC released statistics that the number of rape and murder crimes have increased in the province. The elderly continue to be victims of crime, and more of a concern is that they are being killed and their houses torched simply because they are accused of witchcraft. And now that is the focus of today. The province is saying they want to build an awareness about that, to say no to abuse against the elderly, no to killing them simply because they look like they are witches, and people continue to kill them. But to talk to us more about this, I'm joined by the Eastern Cape Premier Phumulo Maswale. Premier, thank you so much for joining us. Today you are focusing on the elderly, especially with the statistics that came out that murder and rape against the elderly is on the rise. What is it that you are trying to do today?
Well, thank you very much. Indeed, we have decided to come here in Tsomo, for we have, according to information, received or observed that there's quite a number of the elderly who live in poverty around this area. And of course, given this being the birthplace of Mama Sisulu, we have, as part of commemorating her centenary, decided let's come focus here on the elderly, for indeed in them they have wisdom, they need to be cared for. As part of this observing the International Day for the Elderly, we've chosen therefore to come here so that we can bring awareness to all in society about the rights of the elderly, but secondly, talk to the elderly themselves so that we can be able to relate to their experiences, more so issues that relate to abuse in respect of them being looking after a number of households in terms of financial freedom. They are often abused by the young. We are here therefore to really mobilize, to bring awareness of the rights of the elderly. And of course the theme this year is that the rights of the elderly are non-negotiable. They must be supported, and we must do everything in that respect as part of us honoring the elderly.
And today's International Day for the Elderly, you're bringing this awareness. Is there a long-term plan to make sure that you do you counter the scourge of abuse against the elderly and deal with poverty that affects them?
Absolutely. Part of our programs to deal with the vulnerable sectors in society, we have a focus on the elderly. We are continuously engaged in activities, firstly to look after their well-being, secondly to look at support programs in terms of them being taken out of poverty, but also to be taken care of, because some are needing a number of services, health, etc. We are looking at combined activities to make sure that we look after them very well.
And you're doing this right at the birthplace of Mama Albertina Sisulu, just as the country celebrates her centenary. Are there plans to improve and develop the town that is poor in terms of infrastructure, job creation, and in terms of dealing with crime in the area?
We are working on short to medium term plans to ensure that that legacy can live even longer. Yes, we are looking at the challenges of infrastructure here, but of course it's going to take government investing over a longer period of time to give impetus to that memory. And of course, elderly people need to be at the center of that to benefit in the legacy of such giants.
And the giant we're talking about would have been 100 years today, and these elderly people are closely reaching that age. When we speak of the centenary of Mama Albertina, considering that this is the month when she was born, can you expect more of hype activities that talk to that and her legacy as Albertina Sisulu?
Absolutely. We're going to be back here on her birth date, in which there is going to be a number of activities to honor her memory, and of course indeed to start putting seeds for the long-term legacy projects that shall remain here to mark that here indeed there was born such a great person who contributed so much to the well-being of all of us.
And lastly, Premier, there's a cry that her legacy is tainted with people associating her with Utat Walter Sisulu and not really acknowledging her as Albertina Sisulu, the struggles she went through, her role as Albertina Sisulu and not as the wife of Walter Sisulu. Do you think we're doing enough to tell the stories of Mama Albertina?
Well, it's something we have got to work hard at, because often owing to the patriarchal nature of society, the tendency is to look at the male factor in the history as we have the history being told. But indeed, it's true that in her own right, she really was a trailblazer. She, at the time when her husband was incarcerated, led quite a life of a leader. Independent of the husband. Of course, it's only by association. So we're working very hard to make sure that Mama Albertina, as herself, as a leader in her own right, we can start appreciating the attributes, the leadership qualities that she brought to bear for all to learn from.
Premier, thank you so much for your time, and it looks like it's going to be a full house with elderly people arriving at the Tsomo town hall, where they are expected to be addressed by the Premier to bring in awareness, as he said, to talk to them about their rights, the facilities, the departments they can go knock to when they face challenges in the community. And this is at a time when the province is gearing up to celebrate the centenary of Mama Albertina Sisulu in full swing, as this is her birth month, and next week more celebrations are expected to take place right here in Tsomo. The Premier, they're saying they have programs to make sure that they develop the small town of Tsomo that is not really developed and has high unemployment rate, with young people not working in the area. But we continue to monitor the developments, and we'll stay and listen in on what the elderly have to say about the challenges that they themselves face in the communities that they live in. Back to you in studio.
Thank you there to Busiswe Jemsana Mantashe coming to us from Tsomo.